Hello everyone. So last time around we looked at the Eastern canon, the Masnavi of Rumi. It is called Eastern because Rumi is considered an Eastern Persian poet. So we thought, why don't we look at the beginning of a Western canon this time? So let's pick up Plato's Republic. Now first of all, who is Plato? He is the master of Aristotle, about whom we know from Dante that Aristotle is the master of those who know. Therefore, we are reading today the master of those who know. Much can be said about Plato, but it should suffice to say that he was the student of Socrates and teacher of Aristotle. That's a very brief introduction of Plato's personality. Now let's turn a brief glance towards the historical context of his writing of the Republic. It is reported that he wrote the Republic around 375 BCE, which is around 20 years after the fall of Athens in 404 BCE to the Spartan general Lysander, at the end of the long war we remember as the Peloponnesian War. There may be contention about the exact date, but one fact seems certain that Plato wrote the Republic after he had seen his beloved city-state reduced to ruins, destroyed by plague, war and ambition. It was a time of self-reflection for the Athenians. They were ruminating about their fate. How was it possible that such a powerful city at the height of its zenith with its powerful navy and military alliances and architecture like that of the Parthenon and Plato's Academy and Sophocles' theatrics came crashing down from Periclean golden age to the stuff of history books? Socrates saw it all, Plato saw it all, and those with him saw it all. Now it was time to sit down and look back at the political mistakes that either Athens made or were forced on it by fortune to tell the future generation through a philosophical commentary on the major political systems. Plato's Republic is the summary of our political history. In it we find the discussion of every major political regime, whether it be democracy, oligarchy or autocracy. We do not find in it a direct attack like usually political commentators do on the actors. This president did this prime minister did that, this military commander took the wrong decision or the like. On the contrary, what we find in it is a different approach. So Plato, or Socrates I must say, is going to construct an ideal city dynamically. From the first step to the last of constructing the Callipolis, i.e. the ideal city, Plato will not give a static analysis. He would look at the development of the city and then find the fault lines within that development and then add other political structures to it so that the shortcomings are addressed. So that's what we find in the Republic. But how does it begin? The wisest man of Athens, Socrates, who had been termed the wisest by the Delphic oracle, begins his dialogue in the book with these words. Quote open. I went down yesterday to the Piraeus with Glaucon, the son of Ariston, that I might offer up my prayers to the goddess, and also because I wanted to see in what manner they would celebrate the festival, which was a new thing. I was delighted with the procession of the inhabitants, but that of the Thracians was equally, if not more, beautiful. Quote close. The very first action is that of descent. I went down, he says. Descent plays a very important role in the Republic. Later in the 7th book of the Republic, Socrates will sketch out his famous allegory of the cave. And in it, we are going to see that at the end, when the philosopher who has been dragged out to see the sun or the naked truth is then forced to return to the darkness, to the chained prisoners to tell what he has seen outside the cave, to descend into the cave. The philosopher has to descend into the cave to wake others up. The allusion to this kind of descent is given right at the beginning of the Republic. Socrates goes down, but to where? To Piraeus. Now, what is this place, Piraeus? Piraeus at the time was a major port town adjacent to Athens. It was the center of military power and wealth. It was the place that played a major role in establishing Athens as the hegemon of Greece, and consequently the place towards which Sparta always had its eyes. Athens, just like other superpowers throughout history, had the most powerful navy, which was further strengthened by the various naval alliances in the region. Furthermore, Piraeus was also the center of wealth because of being the center of imports and exports. This town became a melting pot where everyone got the chance to become wealthy, even the resident aliens. Cephalus, whose son Polemarchus threatens Socrates to go to his house and have a conversation, is a resident alien. He has the right to live in Athens or in its suburbs, but he is not called an Athenian. Nonetheless, he is well respected in Piraeus and also very wealthy. He has earned his fill in this port city, and now he is leading a life of peaceful retirement, as we would see when Socrates would meet him later. But there seems to be a reason for Plato to mention all these symbols of social coordinates right at the start of the dialogue, so that it presents the reader with a kind of snapshot that this is what is expected in this book. The whole dialogue takes place in Cephalus' house, and Cephalus takes his leave after the brief introductory moments where he welcomes Socrates and exchanges a few preliminary remarks. Now we can understand the second interpretation associated with the famous first phrase, I went down. If Socrates is taken to be the son, the wisest man of Athens, the mind of Athens, so to say, that this would go down as soon as the two pillars on which Athens has stood for so long, that is, wealth and navy, will go down. And this is precisely what happened in the Peloponnesian War. There are indications in the dialogue that suggest that this dialogue took place during the war. Socrates had been a soldier and had fought in wars against the Persians from the Athenian side. He knew what it meant to be involved in military. He knew well the social and political institutions of Athens, as he would explain and defend himself in his defense in the assembly in front of the 30 tyrants planted by Sparta after the fall of Athens, that he had been in conversation with all the leading experts of rhetoric and politics and could not find a convincing answer to his questions. He would claim that he had realized that they know nothing, but it is only him who knows that he knows nothing. But this is all after the downfall. In the Republic, we encounter a different Socrates, whom Plato dramatizes to give us symbolic foresights about the ultimate decline, and right at the beginning we find most of them condensed in a few lines. So that was the interpretation of the descent and the humbug of the Piraeus. After that, Plato feels obligated to certify the authenticity of this dialogue. Obviously, if we listen to someone narrate a story or a dialogue or an event, we want to know if it is authentic or not. Hence, we can pose the same question to Plato, that all this that you describe, the allegory, the Callipolis, the wonderful dynamic of the development of the just city, the discussion of justice, all of this that you describe and write, Plato, where did you hear this from? Who told you this? Plato, in the very first line of the Republic, establishes his authority by saying that it was none other than his own brother Glaucon with whom Socrates went down to Piraeus. It is important to keep a close look at the characters that Plato mentions in his dialogues. They serve a purpose. They are all usually well-known figures, and their social reputation provides depth to the structure of the text. Until now, in the first line, we have encountered a downward movement, upward down, and Plato's brother. The natural question is, why is Socrates going down to Piraeus? Which is, that I might offer up my prayers to the goddess, has at least two dimensions to it. First relates to his defense in front of the 30 tyrants. Later, Socrates would be accused of corrupting the youth and driving them away from the traditional gods. Well, here we find him offering his prayers to the goddess Bandis, who is the Thracian version of the Athenian Artemis, who is furthermore the daughter of Zeus, and most importantly, the twin sister of Apollo. She is the symbol of Luna, the moon, chastity basically. Socrates considers this goddess worthy of a visit because a festival dedicated to her was taking place in Piraeus. But this festival is reported to be of a Dionysian nature. Nietzsche in the 20th century would expand upon the difference between the Dionysian passion and Apollonian rationality and put Socrates in the Apollonian camp. And not just that, he would also accuse Socrates as the catalyst of the Athenian decline. But let's return back to Plato. Here we have a festival of the Thracian version of Apollo's twin sister in a Dionysian manner taking place in Piraeus, which not only suggests that Socrates is respectful towards the Athenian interpretation of Artemis, but also the Thracian interpretation, which seems a bit different from the former one. The Thracians were Athenian allies and fought against Sparta in the Peloponnesian War. They spoke Indo-European language and represented, as highlighted before, the Dionysian side of the Greek culture. This is the second dimension of Socrates' mention of the Thracian festival because it demonstrates that the Athenian culture was going through a change and people there were accepting new representation of their culture. Changes in society are brought about by the changes in the culture, and its representation confirms that there has been some shift in the underlying social conditions. These social transformations become rapid during war times. Plato's Republic begins with so much to talk about. Its symbols, its details, its setting of the scene. Nothing is arbitrary. Everything is there for a purpose. We need to read it like Simone Weil read it. I conclude with her famous quotation on Plato. She said, quote open, "The wisdom of Plato is not a philosophy, a search for God by means of human reason." Quote close. Thank you everyone.